Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Telepractice Rules and Regulations. I am the owner of Online Speech Services, which specializes in online speech therapy, accent modification, and public speaking coaching. I have a master's degree in communication sciences and disorders and an MBA in business administration. I've been serving clients via telepractice for over 10 years and have trained dozens of speech language pathologists individually and in small groups in the appropriate telepractice service delivery. I also have over 7 years of management experience. During this time, I was responsible for hiring, training, and supervising a team of 80 speech language pathologists who were all working remotely as telepractitioners. As a manager, I organized the department's professional development program, established best practices and issues related to telepractice, and ensured compliance with national and state licensing regulations. I'm an advocate of telepractice as an effective method of service delivery and have even presented several studies on telepractice at the annual American Speech Language Hearing Association convention. So let's get started by talking about what telepractice actually is. Telepractice is the telemedicine equivalent of speech-language pathology services. According to ASHA, telepractice is the application of telecommunications technology to deliver professional services at a distance by linking clinician to client or clinician to clinician for assessment, intervention, and/or consultation. It is the position of the American Speech Language Hearing Association that telepractice is an appropriate model of service delivery for the profession of speech language pathology. So you may be wondering if telepractice is actually effective. Indeed, it is. There have been many independent studies conducted over the past 15 years or so that show the effectiveness of telepractice. These studies are actually published in peer-reviewed journals and show that client outcomes are very similar, in some cases even better, than in-person speech-language therapy. In some cases, clients are also more satisfied with telepractice due to its convenience, engaging technology, and ability for family members to be involved. So some of the research studies on the effectiveness of telepractice have been done in the areas of speech sound disorders, language disorders, stuttering, and autism, just to name a few. If you'd like a list of studies, please contact me and I'd be happy to email you some links. Speech-language pathologists must adhere to national and state regulations regarding the use of telepractice. ASHA states that services delivered via telepractice must be equivalent to the quality of services provided in person and consistent with adherence to the Code of Ethics, the scope of practice in speech-language pathology, state and federal laws, and ASHA policy. So ultimately, it's up to the clinician to ensure that you are delivering high-quality services and utilizing evidence-based practice in your telepractice. Another question that's often asked is, what licenses do I need? ASHA suggests that you are licensed in the state where you, the clinician, are located and where your client is located. And this is where they are located at the time of service. You need to make sure that you are looking at the state regulations for both states, however, because that can vary by state requirements. If you look at this map, it's one that was created by ASHA that shows you what states do have licensure and regulations related to the delivery of telepractice. As I've been providing telepractice services, I've been licensed in 5 states and have had a Department of Education license in 3 states. And while I was a manager of the department of over 80 SLPs, I was responsible for overseeing the licensure process. So that included many phone calls and emails and reading through some of these regulations. And I was overseeing over 20 states at the time. So I definitely have a lot of experience with state licensure laws. And I know that it can be a bit challenging to try to adhere to the different requirements to obtain and maintain your licenses. But it's very important that you do so you do not put your license in jeopardy. As you can see from this map, Many states are jumping on the telepractice regulation bandwagon. This is great for the public and protects them, but this can cause some additional hurdles for SLPs moving forward in delivering telepractice. There is a draft currently of an interstate compact that should help streamline the process moving forward. But in the meantime, we are at the mercy of each state's regulations regarding licensure. Another thing about the compact is that it has to be passed, and then each state has to decide whether or not they want to adopt it. So it may take a while for that to really benefit the speech language pathologists who are delivering services via telepractice. But things are definitely looking up, and that can help us and go a long way in reducing the headache that can come along with these additional licenses. So, what happens if a state has not established regulations on telepractice? You want to make sure that you contact the state licensure board for further guidance and ask for written verification. So in some cases, you can send an email and they'll email you back. So that's your written verification of what the state's position is on telepractice. And it's your responsibility to review the regulations of the state licensure board and check it regularly because there are frequent changes. And even though ASHA has this map, for example, the information isn't updated daily. As a general rule of thumb, state licensure boards govern the practice of speech-language pathology in private practice and healthcare settings. However, some states require that SLPs working in schools also obtain a teacher certification from the state's Department of Education. In some states, the SLP can either have the board license or the Department of Education license. From the Department of Education, these are often referred to as a specialist certificate. Some states may require that SLPs working in schools only have the DOE certification, while some may require that the SLP only have a license from the state licensure board. And some states require both the license from the licensure board and the DOE certification, and sometimes in that order. Getting your state license first and then applying for the DOE certification, which can also extend the timeline for having the appropriate licensure and certification to get started seeing your clients. Unfortunately, the licensure board and the Department of Education are completely separate entities and do not communicate with each other. This also means that one does not know the rules of the other. So if you will be serving schools, you need to reach out to the Department of Education in the state in which you wish to practice to find out their requirements for providing telepractice services to schools. You may also need to find out from that individual district or school what their policy is. Thanks to ASHA, they've streamlined this process so you can easily find an overview of each state's requirements. And even though you need to check to make sure that the information is current, there are links that will take you directly to each state's page on the state-by-state information page on the ASHA website. So let's get into talking about protecting your client's information. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, also known as HIPAA, rules provide federal protections for patient health information held by covered entities and business associates, and gives patients an array of rights with respect to that information. So, what's the difference between privacy versus security? These are two of the main rules that you need to take into consideration as it relates to HIPAA. The privacy rule governs who can have access to PHI, or protected health information, while the security rule sets the standards for ensuring that only those who should have access to electronic protected health information actually have access. The privacy rule relates to any form of information, including electronic, written, or oral, whereas the security rule only pertains to the electronic form. Now, what is a covered entity? A covered entity is every type of healthcare provider, including speech-language pathologists, and those who electronically transmit health information with insurance companies. So if you're transmitting information such as claims, benefit eligibility inquiries, and referral authorization requests, then you are a covered entity. If you're communicating with insurance companies on a client's behalf, you are a covered entity. So what is protected health information, commonly referred to as PHI? Some of the health information that may be considered PHI relates to a client's health condition, the provision of health care, and payment for those services. Some of the demographic information associated with this include the client's name, address, birth date, and social security number. Basically, the demographic information would be anything that can be used to identify an individual. If you're looking at this health information, it's related to the past, present, and even future provision of healthcare to the individual. Now, how does all of this apply to telepractice? If you're thinking about the privacy rule, you need to make sure that you are using private networks during your treatment sessions. So that means that you want to be working, for example, if you're using Wi-Fi, it needs to be a secure network. If you're working from home or an office, it needs to be a network that's secure and password protected so not just anyone can have access. You also want to make sure that you're using encrypted video conferencing platform. There are a number of platforms that are encrypted, and then there are those that do provide the protection that's required for HIPAA and will sign a business associate agreement with you, which we'll cover later. Now, regarding the security rule, which relates to electronic PHI, let's look at email encryption. If you're transmitting information about a client via email, you want to make sure that that email is encrypted. And one of the ways to do that is to send it through a secure messaging system. There are also some email encryption services that you can purchase. Additionally, if you have a client portal, for example, through your EMR, then that will definitely help in transmitting this electronic protected health information in a secure manner. One of the things you should always do is to password protect your computer on which client information is stored. And if you want some additional ways for protecting electronic protected health information, then the ASHA website has some additional options listed. Now let's get back to the business associate agreement, which I mentioned just a few moments ago. A business associate agreement, or a BAA, just states that if a covered entity engages a business associate to help it carry out its healthcare activities and functions, then the covered entity must have a written BA contract or other arrangement with the business associate that establishes specifically what the business associate has been engaged to do and requires the business associate to comply with the rules requirements to protect the privacy and security of the protected health information. So, what is a business associate? That would refer to a person or entity that performs certain functions or activities that involve the use or disclosure of PHI on behalf of or provide services to a covered entity. And remember, if you are communicating with insurance companies on behalf of your client, then you are a covered entity. So some of the services that you as a telepractitioner may use would be, for example, a video conferencing platform. So you want to select one that is definitely HIPAA compliant, and there are a number that have that built in. And then there are some that you would have to pay an additional amount or make sure that you are on a certain plan so you can get that business associate agreement signed. Also, if you're using an electronic fax service, you want to make sure that you have a signed business associate agreement with that provider. For example, the one that I use provides it for free. I use FaxAge. Also, if you have an email provider such as Google Suite, you want to make sure that you have a signed BAA with that provider also. For Google, if you have the business suite that you pay for on a monthly basis, you can get a signed BAA, but it does not come with just the free version of Google. Now, how does security relate to working in schools? There's an additional law, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, that pertains to schools, that affords parents the rights to have access to their children's education records, the right to seek to have the records amended, and the right to have some control over the disclosure of personally identifiable information from the education records. So FERPA relates to working in schools. If you're working privately or in healthcare settings, this does not apply, whereas HIPAA may not apply to these students either unless you're billing Medicaid. So if we're thinking about an educational record, those directly relate to a student and they're maintained by the educational agency or a party acting on behalf of the educational agency. So they can include grades, transcripts, class lists, student course schedules, health records, and student discipline files. So there is a lot of information from the U.S. Department of Education regarding FERPA, but if you're working in the schools, you should have access to the information and the procedures that they have set into place to make sure that you're protecting the students' educational protected information. All right, now let's move on to talking about some other considerations. The ASHA website provides a lot of information, great resources, and guidance related to telepractice, but there's no way to keep track of all of the information for every state and every country that you may possibly be providing services to. So this information is not updated daily or even monthly. I think it's once a year. So the individual state regulations change so frequently that you should always be sure to go directly to the state's licensure board to inquire about their current rules and regulations. Also, it's best practice to obtain written client consent prior to initiating services via telepractice. So if you're going to create your own consent form, some of the things to include would be a description of the equipment that you're using, the services that will be delivered, how services via telepractice may differ from services delivered in person, the individual's right to revert to traditional in-person care at any time, and any potential confidentiality issues. If you're a covered entity that we discussed earlier, meaning you're communicating with health insurance companies on your client's behalf, you need to provide your clients with a privacy policy and have them sign to acknowledge that they received it. And there are a lot of free online templates for privacy policies. So, after learning all of this information about rules and regulations related to telepractice, are you even more eager to get started? Well, if you answered yes, I think I can help. If you're a private practitioner interested in adding telepractice to your practice, but don't know where to start, you're definitely in the right place. Do you think you need someone to help guide you through what it takes to deliver high quality services via telepractice? I have created an ultimate telepractice training for beginners. And this is an online course that is brand new, and it's created to provide you with step-by-step instructions for adding telepractice to your practice. I created this course based on a lot of the questions that I've received and that I've seen others asking related to getting started in telepractice and not sure where to look. Or maybe they've looked and they've hit a wall because there's so much information. So if you're interested in adding telepractice to your practice, this step-by-step course is designed to get you from point A to point B so you can be serving clients via telepractice in 4 weeks or less. This means you can serve more people in more places and ultimately grow your practice. Some of the course topics include identifying appropriate telepractice clients, selecting the appropriate technology, selecting a video conferencing platform, and selecting materials. You'll also receive a free live practice session with me to practice your newly acquired skills before you have your first client. Additionally, I have another bonus of adding you to my closed Facebook group for ongoing support, even after the course is finished. If you need help with things like starting your practice, maybe you don't even have a practice yet, or if you want to grow your practice and need help with the business side of things, I can help with those items as well. Things like writing a business plan or developing a marketing strategy including social media, or even establishing an accounting system. I'm a licensed speech language pathologist and an MBA graduate, so I have the business background as well. So let's look at this course in a little more detail. The first week covers how to choose your clients. So that means knowing what age clients would be appropriate, what types of disorders you can serve via telepractice, in what settings, and then how to serve clients with severe disorders. In week 2, we look at how to ensure you have the right technology. That includes, at minimum, the right computer, headset, webcam, and video conferencing platform. And then in week 3, we dig deep into the video conferencing platform and selecting the one that fits your needs, because each person's practice is different and your client base is different as well. So you need to select something that has the features that you need, that makes sure you're ensuring your client's privacy, finding a platform that fits your budget, and then knowing how to use those features. And finally, in week 4, we talk about how to find appropriate materials to use with your clients. There are a lot of free materials that you can access. There are ways to use your current materials. You can create your own materials if you like, and I'm also going to be sharing some of my own personal favorites. So let's recap what's included in this course. You get your fully online 4-week course for you to complete at your own pace on your own time. There's a comment section in each lesson so you can ask questions as you go along. You'll have lifetime access to the course content and free printable downloads to use at your desk for quick reference as you're getting started. So there are 2 options. You can choose just the online course that has the free practice session with me at the end. This course will soon be going for $499, but right now it's only $299 for the full 4-week course. The second option, if you feel like you need a little more help in getting your business side up and running, the online course plus consulting, and that will soon be going for $999, but for a limited time, I'm offering it for only $799. That includes 4 individual coaching sessions with me. And because everyone has different budgets, I definitely wanted to make this accessible for everyone who's interested. So there are 2 plans, and for both plans, you can either choose a one-time payment or you can break it into 3 monthly installments if that works better for you. And for attending this webinar today, I have an extra special offer just for you. You can, if you choose to pay up front, get an extra 20% off of this already discounted price. So if you need my help getting started in telepractice and you've attended today's webinar, use the code webinar20 at checkout for an additional 20% off. And as the price increases, unfortunately, that means the 20% off will be discounted off of that increased price. But I'm giving 20% off for those who attend my live webinar. So I thank you so much for your time, and I really want to help you in your journey to adding telepractice to your practice. So please, 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 if you have any questions at all, you can send me an email at info@onlinespeechsite.com. That's info@onlinespeechsite.com. My name is Adrienne, and I really hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.